So let me share my screen. There we are. Now, I'm going to start my show, PowerPoint show from the beginning, from there. Now, I'd just like to check to see that everybody can see that. Can you all now see my PowerPoint page? Kate, perhaps you could confirm that that's viewable now?
Yep, all viewable.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so as I said, task 2, writing. Once again, it seems to be the part that causes the most trouble to people. So today, in response to some of the trends I've seen recently in essays from some of you, and other teachers have reported similar findings, similar problems that they have noticed. So I thought we would look at planning, which I think is the basis of where the problems are coming from. It's the root of what we're not doing quite correctly yet. Some of you are writing great essays with good grammar, with a wide range of vocabulary, but they're not quite hitting the 7 mark. And I think it's because of the point we're going to look at today. So we're going to start with planning, then we'll move on to selecting points to talk about from your brainstorm, and then we'll look at how to support those main points. So I hope this should make the lights come on for you and say, okay, that would be how to do it. So my next page. So we're going to look at task 2 and how to plan your essay. When I taught in Southeast Asia, I could tell immediately when an essay had been planned and when it hadn't been planned. The essays were all over the place, and I could say, you didn't write a plan for this, did you? And the students would say, yes, how do you know? Well, it's obvious. With some of your essays, I'm not sure. I really don't know. I'm having a great difficulty to wonder, was there a plan for this, or was it just a stream of consciousness? I think there's plans, but I think they're not how we could be doing them. So let me give you some ideas today how I think we could improve at the planning stage, which will for certain make the final product past that magic 7 mark that we need. Some of you have said, help, I don't know anything about this topic. I've never read about it. I don't know anything about it. That would be quite rare. The questions that are asked for IELTS essays are tested thoroughly worldwide. You'd be a very, very, very rare person not to know anything about a topic. That knowledge might be hidden quite deeply. It may not be something you've directly thought about, but you're going to know something about it. We don't ask you to do obscure essays about things which nobody would know about. You probably know something about them. But for those who find it difficult to get started, difficult to spark the ideas, perhaps you might want to try the fields of enquiry method. Some of you will be saying, oh, the teacher's made a spelling mistake. No, in UK English we spell enquiry E-N, and you can hear it in the pronunciation, enquiry. I know in American English, which some of your Englishes are what could we say, influenced by, you would say inquiry and spell it I-N, and you can hear that inquiry, enquiry. So 2 different ways of spelling, 2 different ways of pronunciation. One of my webinars coming up soon will be about the differences between UK English, British English, and American English. Most of the world actually uses British English as its basis. The grammar, by and large, is usually a British model. For example, Canada, Australia, India, Singapore, they're all using British models. You'd think American English is the most popular. It's actually not. It's just, it's on the internet, and it's on films from Hollywood, of course, but it's actually not the most common style of English. The British English is still far and away the most commonly used worldwide. However, fields of enquiry, not inquiry. So fields of enquiry, it's a method you can use to spark things off, to get the brain thinking about a particular topic. So let's have a look at this fairly typical essay title. Many people argue that money spent on the arts, such as museums and art galleries, theatre and opera, could be better used to fund education. To what extent do you agree with this view? Well, you might say, oh, I don't know anything about this. Money spent on the arts? What? I know nothing about this. I'm not involved in it. But you know more than you think. You just need to spark the ideas. So on this lesson plan, on this plan, I've put down government, family, money, companies. You can put any 4 fields. When you get used to doing this, you'll find some fields which are particularly rich for ideas. Others take you nowhere. Don't use them, but pick a few that could be connected with your subject. So however little you think you know about the subject, choose 4 fields or areas of enquiry. So I've chosen government, family, money, companies, and then just jot down keywords which are connected to money spent on the arts, and it's giving you some suggestions of what they mean. Museums, art galleries. I don't know any large city anywhere on earth which doesn't have museums and art galleries. Theatre. Most large cities would have some form of theatre. Perhaps not opera. Not so popular everywhere, but a sort of venue for cultured singing rather than a rock concert. But even rock concerts could be classed as arts. So looking at these clues, what involvement does the government have? And jot down some key words. So they might be the ones spending the money. They might want to be seen as being connected to the arts. This might be an electioneering area for them. So government could spark off a few keywords. Doesn't matter whether these keywords will take you anywhere. Get them down on paper, just a few minutes. Family. How would the family? Well, families visit these places. They would get education for the kids at places like this, maybe help with school work, school curricula. Money. Should these places be free to visit, which would then require more money from the government? Or should we have to pay some money? Or should we have to fully support them with our entrance fees to museums and art galleries, for example? Companies. Well, what have companies to do with art? Well, some of the theatre companies are run as companies, but perhaps need sponsorship from other companies. So companies might want to sponsor the arts in some way. They might want to sponsor an exhibition or a touring theatre group, something like this. So all of these will have some sort of spark which could set you off with your plan. You're going to generate lots of keywords. That, I think, is where the problem is. So once you've done your keywords, we then have to select them. But at the moment, what I want you to do is start planning. Try to make a plan for this essay, the same one we've just looked at, museums and art galleries. And I'm going to sit here quietly for 2 minutes, which would be about the sort of time you would have in an IELTS test. So take 2 minutes, jot down something which will form the basis of your plan. Okay, everyone, that's 2 minutes. 2 minutes is quite a long time. It should be enough to spark some ideas and to get some keywords written down. Now, I wonder, the examiner doesn't want you to demonstrate how much you know. He's not looking for your knowledge on a particular subject. All the examiner is checking is how well you can use English. So I've used this in a couple of webinars before. Less is more. So count up how many ideas you would have gone with in your essay, and count up how many points you would have mentioned. So I would suggest that 2 or 3 well-supported and explained points are far better than a list of half-explained and only hinted at ideas. Many of the essays I've read recently look to me like super plans for a much bigger essay. They're almost as if they're first unexplained drafts of what a much larger essay will look like. Some of you have been putting in an argumentative essay 4 or 5 points for and 4 or 5 points against. Now this does 2 things. It makes your essay long. The longer your essay, the less time you will have to edit it. But it's not going to be a good essay anyway, because in 40 minutes, you cannot possibly fully support 8 or 10 ideas. You need to select, you need to focus it down, to narrow it down to the strongest ideas, the ideas which you've got more information about, perhaps a personal example. It's no good just mentioning everything you know about it. You get a list then, and there's no support. There are hints in the questions that says, give examples from your own give examples where appropriate is the word they use. Where appropriate, give examples and support your writing with your own ideas, that sort of thing. So just listing them and proving to the examiner that you know lots of ideas is not what we're looking for at all. It's not a test of knowledge on the topic. The topic is just there as a vehicle for you to demonstrate how well you can take an idea and explain it and support it with examples. So less is more, once again. Here's an example I read recently. So I'll just read it to you. Nowadays, the essay title was about would it be better to have smaller families or larger families, and to look at both sides. What are the advantages and disadvantages of small versus large families? I've broken it down into 3 different colors. So nowadays, the number of small families is rising significantly, while there is a dramatic decrease in the number of large families. That's a fairly good beginning. I quite like that. So there are several advantages of having a nuclear family, meaning a small one. So good use of vocabulary here. Firstly, people would spend a small amount of money in a small family, I might say but nothing terrible so far, in a small family, while in a big family, they are spending a lot of money. So it's not clear who the they is. I guess it's the parents, but in a big family, they are spending a lot of money. Okay, there's an idea. I would expect to now see this explained, but it's not. Secondly, parents in a small family will have enough time to spend with their children, like teaching them and caring for them, rather than a large family. Well, there's a little bit of support there. Parents in a small family will have enough time, and then it's got a slight example, like teaching them and caring for them rather than a large family. But rather than a large family, it doesn't explain anything about what the opposite, the correlation of that would be. So again, it's a beginning. It's not supported well. Then we get the green one. Finally, people in a nuclear family could have time to travel, and that would not cost them much money rather than in a big family. It is difficult to go abroad, and also that will cost a lot of money. Well, that's all one sentence, and I kind of get what it's about, but there's no example. It's statements. It is difficult to go abroad. No, it's not. Go to the airport. Costs a lot of money. It's not difficult. Or does the writer mean it's difficult when you've got lots of children to look after and you've got to fill in all the passport applications and look after them and feed them all and take the... Maybe, but she hasn't said. So it was lots of beginnings, but no examples supporting these. And that took 138 words. It's 138 words that don't go anywhere. They're fine. There's some great vocabulary. The grammar's pretty good, and one or two small points, and perhaps a change of internal referencing, another thing we're going to look at soon. But basically, it's okay. What it doesn't do, though, is reach anywhere near Band 7, because it doesn't support any of these points in anywhere near enough detail. So lots of you are writing similar things to this. Pretty good vocabulary, good attempt at grammar, nothing really wrong English-wise, but a great deal wrong planning-wise. Less is more. So let's have a look at the next page. And let's see if you can recognize what this one is about. There has been a worldwide trend towards smaller families over the last few decades. One of the advantages of this is that a smaller amount of money is needed to support the family. For example, to buy food, clothing, toys, and transport costs are all reduced in a smaller family. This means that there would be more money available to ensure a solid education for the children. This in turn leads to a better job and greater prosperity for the family as a whole. 84 words. But I would suggest to you that those 84 words are worth a lot more on an IELTS marking scale. An IELTS marking scale requires that not only do you tell me what you want to talk about, but you actually discuss it, that you say why and give an example. So I think you'll agree that this one takes 1 point and really expands it, gives an example and the consequences, not just the causes, but the effects of these things. So this is no longer a list. This is 1 point expanded and talked about. Now, the examiner knows that you know about other things, but what he knows here is that you can take 1 point and write in English about it. So this one, although it's lots of words shorter, would score much more on an IELTS marking scale because it's fully exemplified, explained, and it's connected. It's not just a bullet point list of ideas that you've got. Some of you, you've written it in writing, but there's no meat to it. You've given me the bones of your essay, the bones of a much larger essay. And it's not hitting the mark. It's a 6.5 for sure, because the English, the grammar, the vocabulary, even the layout is good. You've got that, I can see. But it cannot be 7 because it doesn't fully explain things. It doesn't discuss. It doesn't give examples. So many of you are disappointed to get this 6.5 recurring, try this different approach. It may not be what you're putting in the way of the mechanical writing of the English. The grammar and the vocabulary in many cases are extremely good. It might be content. So give that a thought next time. Less is more. 1 point, fully expanded, fully explained. Okay. So, when planning, brainstorm your topic. However you do that, you can write on bits of paper for it. You're provided with paper which you can produce the plan on. You're not required to give the plan in. If it's quicker for you, you can write it in your own language. Up to you. It's not marked as part of the essay. Take 2, 3, even 4 minutes to do this part. 5 minutes even. It will pay off in the end. So brainstorm the topic. What do you know? If you can't get anything flowing, do the fields of inquiry method. That works for a huge range of students. Then your plan can be either a neat one with all the things all the keywords down the left-hand side, or it can be a scatter diagram, things everywhere on your piece of paper. Some people like to do a spider diagram. They'll start with the topic in the middle and have legs coming off and put keywords in smaller circles around it. Once you've done that, once you've got all your ideas, then you can group similar ideas together. Oh, these are all about families, these are all about government, or this is about money, or this is about law and legislation, for example, whatever fields you've looked at. Some of them, although the spark came to you, you said, no, I can't really talk about that. I don't know enough about that part. So that's a dead end. Leave it. Don't even mention it. But the ones that you do decide, well, yes, oh, we could talk about the family here. Oh, yeah, that could be linked with education. And the ones you can make larger, the ones you can explain more fully and give an example, perhaps a personal example, or say, yes, I have friends who have done this and they found it good or bad, whatever your point of view is. So fully supporting those most important ideas, that's the key. As I've said, the examiner is not testing you on how much you know on a topic. It's an English exam. It's not an exam on whatever the topic is. He wants to see full explanation of a few main points. So if we can do that, we're more than halfway there. So there's no need then to write more than 350 words. 350 words is, I would suggest, an absolute maximum. Some of you, I know, have produced essays. One couple of days ago, I put the word counter over and it was 479 words. We had a teachers' meeting recently and a couple of the teachers had essays with 500 plus words in them. Now, I've written lots of essays in my life. I've written probably in excess of 100 graded essays. And I've marked and judged countless thousands. And I know that you cannot write 500 plus quality words within 40 minutes. It's impossible. And I'm stating it here. These essays that are 450 or 500 or even more words long cannot possibly be produced to a Band 7 standard within 40 minutes. You are wasting your time. It cannot be a Band 7 if it's that long. 2 reasons. It will either be repeating itself and wandering and going this way and that, perhaps even wandering off topic, or it will be so scrawled and bad in the handwriting department that the examiner will mark it down, not because your handwriting's not, well, the reason is the handwriting is untidy, therefore it causes the reader strain to decipher the words. So if he cannot read it easily, the examiner will mark it down. So to keep the writing reasonably legible, you need to be able to write a little bit slower, and I would suggest 320, 330 is about the maximum you'd need. You can easily get band 7 with round about 275, 300 words. It's not the length of the essay which will get you more marks. I would say the longer the essay, the less carefully planned, the more rambling, and if you've written 400 words, you then are very pushed for time because you must have spent 4 minutes to plan, then the physical writing, then how can you possibly edit that at the end? You'll go, whew, and you'll hear, put your pens down, please. You couldn't possibly have gone through to check it. It's a great many words to check anyway, so the quality must be gone. Some of you, when I ask you, I'll say, oh, that was a great essay. I thought you did quite well there. You were 375 words. How long did it take you to produce that? And I hear, oh, just under an hour. Well, that's not going to help either. Even if you've got a perfect, and I mean perfect, a band 9 essay, if you only produce task 2, the essay, and you don't make a good attempt at task 1, or if task 1 is worth 2 or 3, you'll be scoring 6, 6.5, even if your essay was perfect. The essay only counts for 67%. So even a band 9 essay, only with no task 1, maximum score 6.5. You don't want 6.5. You want less, which gives you more time to write task 1. So fewer words, better quality, focused. So I hope that we see a trend towards shorter essays with fewer points in them and a more full explanation of those points. I think after seeing months and months of essays, I think that's going to be the biggest help to you. We've been looking at grammar and at vocabulary, and we've given you examples, but now I'm saying, right, you're writing too much. It's not good quality because it's not fully supported. Nothing the matter with some of your grammar, nothing the matter with some of your vocabulary. Sometimes word orders are a bit strange, but we only need 7. There's room to make mistakes. We don't have to be getting 9. To get to 7, full explanation. Okay, so I'm hoping to see a trend towards shorter essays with fewer points, far more thoroughly supported. Okay. So once you've selected the best points, this is a little look at, well, how do we support it? What does it mean to support the points? So let's say we get 10 points, then you sort it down, you whittle it away until you get left with 2 for, 2 against, for example. So these are your best points, the ones that you're pretty certain you can expand upon. So tell me what that idea is. Clearly say what the idea is and why. Say what the idea is, then why that idea is important, why it's something that you're writing about. So going back to the essay about smaller families, there's a growing trend towards smaller families. There's your introduction. one advantage of a small family is that it will cost less. That's not the end. Then you've got to say how. For example, food for fewer children will not cost so much. Therefore, there will be, and clothing and transport costs. Therefore, there will be more money within the family available to spend on other necessities, other items. For example, education. Increased education will help the general prosperity of the family, etc., etc., and on it goes. So give an example, two perhaps, but fully explain it. Don't just leave us hanging. Don't give us a list of things. We want to see that you've thought about it and you've got a point and it's expanded upon. Okay. And then stop. So you've given an example, perhaps a couple, stop. Don't do any more. Don't loop, don't repeat. One more example, one more point, and that's your paragraph done. So let's have a look at this essay, or this beginning. Many cities suffer from traffic congestion, particularly during rush hours. One reason for this is the sheer number of businesses located within cities. So here we've got the topic sentence, cities suffering from traffic congestion, particularly rush hours. Then we're going to say why cities suffer from congestion. One reason for this is the sheer number of businesses located within cities. So there's our point that we want to make. We think there are too many businesses within a city. Now, the green part, this goes on to do a bit of further explanation and to say why that might be the case. So this is because having one's business in the main part of a city is seen as advantageous, in that many people will know where it is situated. So if your business is in the middle of nowhere, fewer people will see it. So it's seen as an advantage to have your business on a busy street. And people go, oh yes, that one there, I know it, that they sell whatever you're looking for. Notice the use, you can see them in the different typeface in black, located and situated. I was conscious when I was writing this, I should draw your attention to it, just the use of synonyms. If we use located, 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 you'll get 1 mark for located. But here I've used located, situated, and then later on I said in. So you'll get more marks for vocabulary by synonyms. Just bear that in mind. So the green one is supporting the point, and then I'm going to give an example. So I've said, this is my point, this is why. For example, Harrods department store in London, which some of you may know, a world famous department store in the centre of one of the busiest shopping areas in London. For example, Harrods department store in London would not have as many customers if it were in the suburbs of London. So if it was out of town in a suburb with just a few thousand people passing it every day, it certainly wouldn't be the busy, successful store that it is today. Then we go on and explain a little bit more about busyness in cities. The problem is therefore made worse by huge numbers of shoppers wanting to be in the centre of cities. So the shop wants to be in the centre of the city so that it's seen. Therefore, lots of people come to it because it's seen as successful. But all those people come in on buses and cars and motorbikes, and they cause congestion. What the answer is your next paragraph. But can you see how this one, the top red one reason for this is the sheer number of businesses located within cities. The readers then got questions. How did that come about? Why is that? Oh, explain. They want to know why you think that. Tell them, then give an example, and perhaps something else to make it clearer to fully support your answer. So 1 point, all those words, but it's worth far more than a list of all the things you know about a topic. This is the type of thing we're looking for. Less is more. So fewer points, more explanation. Okay. So here's a topic. It's an essay title. Some people believe that media, like the press, television, and the internet, should be more strictly controlled. Others feel that, if anything, the controls should be loosened to give people more freer access to information. Discuss the arguments for and against such controls and give your own views. Well, those last 5 words, they're a huge clue. Give your own views. Don't forget to say what you think. So this one, discuss the arguments for and against. Here we're given permission to make this argumentative. It's a discursive essay. We can look from both sides, not asking for what reasons are there. It's not asking for you to take one side and expand that, but it's a balanced one. You can discuss both sides. So I'm going to give you another couple of minutes, 2 minutes, to brainstorm that. So brainstorm it, select some main points, and see what you come up with. So I'll be quiet. I'll come back in 2. Okay, that's a couple of minutes. That's 2 minutes for you. So the media should be more strictly controlled or not. So you've got 2 sides. Yes, it should. No, it shouldn't. I wonder, can you count up how many points you've got? How many points you would include in your essay? So I will ask you perhaps to comment in a couple of minutes how many points you would have gone with, but I'm fairly certain those of you with more than 4, that's more than 2 for, 2 against, would not be able to fully support, as we've looked at, fully support all of your points within the time available. Now, if you do 2 main ideas and then add 2 more at the bottom, they are absolutely wasted ideas. Better not to even write them. Better to give another example for one of your others. So 2 for, 2 against. You can show that you know more ideas by saying, there are many reasons. However, I will focus on the 2 chief reasons. Something like that. So you've got to be ruthless at the planning stage. Be ruthless. Cut it down. 3 or 4 points with good support, reasoned argument. So you might have 2 for, 1 against. That's fine. Or 2 and 2. Far better than a list of all the things you can think of or running out of time. So I hope that you'll think more about fewer items, more fully supported. So that's my main message from today, which will make a shorter, crisper, more 7-like essay for you. So on that point, let's have a quick summary. Analyze what the question is about. Spend a few minutes planning. Select the strongest points to expand on. Less is more. I won't stop saying that till I see shorter, better essays. So less is more. 300 words or so would be fine. You're not writing a book. The last few minutes should be spent editing, checking for plural agreement, etc., etc. All the things that we're looking at from the textbook. So, any questions? So let's stop sharing my PowerPoint now. We'll go to the fuller screen. So let's see. I've got something in chat. Okay. Glessy is saying, can I have 1 point for 1 point against and 1 point for my opinion? Can I have 1 point for, 1 point against, and 1 point for my opinion? Your opinion's going to be either for or against. It's rare that you'll be sitting on the fence, as it were. You'll have an opinion one way or the other. So can I have 1 point for, 1 against? Your opinion's got to be one or the other. If you're truly undecided, I guess you could have another point saying, I agree with this, but not with that, so I'm undecided. So yes, you could say that. Mark, I think, has said 1 point in each argument. If you've got a really big one, which you can write enough about, that would be fine. You could have a main point fully supported. Yeah. That's possible. I've seen essays score highly using that strategy. So in editing, do we need a draft, then transfer to make it tidy write-up? No. You'll never have time. Don't write a draft and then write it out neatly. So long as your writing is neat enough to read, you're there. What I mean by editing is not rewriting a first draft. To edit is to go down and change is to are when it needs to be, or are to is. Add an S, cross the S off. It doesn't matter if it looks as if you've edited it. The examiner will be delighted to see that you have. So cross out words you don't want, write another one above, cross through the S. There's no need to rub them out if you're using pencil or to make it neat. We all edit whatever we're writing. I'm sure you've all started emails and then, oh no, that's not what I want to say, and you've added things into them. Even messages on your phones, you oh, not quite right. Oh, I should say that's PM, not 3 o'clock in the morning. So you're always editing and changing things. So Is it possible to get a 7 even though we did not reach the minimum number of words, so long as the essay is clear and well explained? Lugene, if it's under 250 words, it's probably not clear and well explained. You'll need 250 words has been picked by IELTS as their minimum number of words. It has to be somewhere. So 250 within 40 minutes, that's achievable by a great many people. Fewer than 250 words hasn't completed the task. The task says write a minimum of 250 words. You're not going to be getting band 7 if you're below it, unless you wrote a really, really good essay which was worth 7.5. Because immediately you go below 250 words, they'll chop off half a band score. Then you'd get a 7, but it's unlikely you'd get 7.5 with less than 250 words. So short answer, no. 250 words is not the target, it's the minimum. The target is fully explained essay of at least 250 words. Okay, next question I've got. Is it okay to have 2 points in one view against the other view with 2 points? Of course, yeah, 2 and 2, 2 for, 2 against. It's just what we've been saying. So 4 points in total, 2 for, 2 against. That's ideal. You might have 3 for, 1 against, or 3 against, 1 for. But yeah, possibly 3 and a couple. It would be getting a bit long then to have 5 points fully explained. But yeah, ideal would be 2 and 2. No problem. Let's have a look now. If no draft needed, what are the best points to make it clean? Crashing a line is just okay. By crashing, do you mean just crossing it out? If so, yes, no problem. In fact, if you choose a word and then you decide, no, it's not the word I want, and you rub out that word and then write the new one in, if the new word is actually the wrong one, but your first word was the right one, if you have a clear line, so don't scribble it out so I can't see what was there, but if you just cross it through once, the examiner can see what you initially had, and he will go, this candidate knew the right word, but changed it. You'll get some sort of credit back for that. If you cross it out, it's gone forever, and the examiner doesn't know you ever thought of it. So this is not something which you're going to publish and put up on a poster. It's an essay which you've worked on in only 40 minutes. Of course, there'll be crossings out and S's. If I see a neat one with no crossings out, no evidence of editing, I'm suspicious. I think it's a memorized one, because it's not possible to do one without some little alterations and editing. So no draft needed, no draft possible. Do not write one out roughly and then attempt to write it neatly. That's just asking for disaster. You'll never have enough time to complete task 1. I hope you all do task 2 first. You can see how important task 2 is. I suggest strongly that you start with task 2. Task 1 writes itself. All the information you need is there. Task 2 needs a bit of thought, and also it's 2/3 of the mark. It's worth completing properly. If task 1 is not quite finished, the examiner doesn't know you wanted to say any more. Okay, have we got one more? I mean, one idea against one paragraph. One idea for the 3rd paragraph would be my opinion and what my selection is. The idea of the paragraph, you've only got 40 minutes, 4 paragraphs total. You'll need an introduction, you'll need a conclusion. So you've got 2 left. have a paragraph 4 where that's the whole, the topic of that paragraph is points, reasons, and examples for something. And the third paragraph, got introduction, paragraph 1, paragraph 2, for, paragraph 3, against, paragraph 4, conclusion. So don't waste one paragraph with one point. You don't want 6 or 7 paragraphs. You want, because you're wasting words by having to re-explain. Far better to make it flow smoothly with some good cohesive devices. Let it hang together in that way. So depends how many points you've got, in my opinion, and what the selection is. Your opinion would be better in the conclusion, if that's what you mean. You could say, having looked at both sides of the argument, my own opinion is that, and then you give it in the conclusion. Can we erase words by a pencil eraser or draw a line only? You can do whatever you want, but I mentioned a little bit earlier, if you just cross it through with a line, the examiner can see that you were actively editing it, and he can see what word you initially chose, which might have been the right one. Is block format needed for the essay writing with no indentation? Up to you. Modern forms tend not to have indentation. I stopped using it about 15 years ago. It has no part of a modern business letter. We just don't use them anymore. Many books these days don't have it either. Newspapers, magazines, most of the books I've read recently have had no indentation either. I think it's dying, so no need to. It's not an exam of penmanship or beautiful setting out. It's the content. The content is king. So it doesn't matter how you present it, so long as it's readable. There's no extra marks for neat presentation. Naomi has a question. In writing for task 1 and task 2, is it necessary to leave one blank space for each paragraph? For example, okay. As I've said, there are no points for neatness. It's a good idea to leave more than one space. There are no marks for neatness, so forget what it looks like. Content is king. So when you've done a paragraph, leave 5 or 6 lines. You can get extra paper if you need it. Leave 5 or 6 lines. Why? When you're editing, you might go, oh, I forgot to mention this. Go and add it. If you've got it in the right place, it's fine. So paragraph 1 might be this long with 5 spaces. Paragraph 2 might be this long and there's only 1 line because you've used 4 of them to write a piece of information that you forgot. So it's not a neat handwriting competition. It's an English competition. Okay. We were taught, do you mean taught, Glacy? We were taught here in the Philippines in a review center that one idea is equated to 1 paragraph. Yeah, lots of review centers in the Philippines tell you things which I disagree with. I work for the British Council as a consultant, and I'm an IELTS examiner, and I'm saying it can, but it doesn't have to be. 1 idea, 1 paragraph, yes. But what I'm telling you is your paragraphs could be, the idea is against, and you might have 2, possibly 3 reasons against. So you're still, in a way, sticking to that. But just because you've got a different idea doesn't mean it needs a separate paragraph if all the ideas are positive or negative. 1 paragraph for positives is 1 idea. Do you see what I mean? Can we use extra time in task 2 to task 1 and vice versa? Of course, it's up to you how you split your hour. Your hour is yours to plan. If you can write very quickly in task 1 and you know that you can dash something off in 15 minutes, which is okay, then you've found yourself another 5 minutes for task 2. That would be great. Yeah. Oh, an apology from Glacy. You meant taught, not thought. Never mind. We can edit it later. We can go back and change it. Okay. No more questions coming. Oh, I can see there's some in Q&A. Let me have a look at these. In writing an essay for both part 1 and 2, is it necessary to leave a blank space for each paragraph? Oh, we've got that one later. We've answered that. Are examples based from my own experience here in the Philippines going to affect my score? No. Why? Because some say that you have to give examples that are familiar to the scorer. The initial scorer, the initial examiner, will be based in the Philippines. Your first marker will be somebody probably in Manila. A portion of the tests are then sent to another center to be double marked. That's part of the quality control of IELTS. But they'll probably be in Southeast Asia. I was based in Bangkok for many years, and I regularly used to see essays from Manila, from Tokyo, from Beijing, and we would swap them around, even from Australia sometimes. So does it have to be familiar to the scorer? No, because you're fully explaining them, aren't you? Give examples that are familiar. If it's not familiar, it will be by the time you've written about it. Question from Mark. In opinionated essays, do we have to balance our arguments? Let's say I partially agree with the topic. Do I have to balance it with one argument that is in favor? No, you could have 3 against 1 for. So long as you've got both sides, it doesn't have to be equal. Your scales might be like that or like that. What you can't have is just one side. Do you have to balance arguments? Let's say I'm partially in agreement. Do I have to balance it with one argument? No. So long as you've got at least letting the examiner know that you're aware of another side. You could do that with. However, some people are of the opinion that but no. Is opinion stated only in conclusion, not in the body nor in the... Up to you, Jamie. Jamie's asked, is opinion stated only in conclusion, not in the body nor in the introduction? No, I've seen it done in all areas. In the introduction, you could say, my own opinion is that it is a good idea, and I will attempt to explain that in the following paragraphs. Or you could say in the conclusion, having seen evidence from both sides, my own opinion is that. Or in the middle, you could say the positive things and say, and this is the stance which I take on the argument. And say perhaps in the negative one, however, I do not agree with any of these hypotheses, views, what have you. Okay, Mark again. Is it okay if just one topic, or is it okay if just one point, one topic in each, and then I'll go with my opinion in the conclusion regard? Yes, you can put your opinion in the conclusion. That's fine, not a problem. You mentioned about British and American English. Capital letters for those two, please, John. Thank you. What if I used many words spelled in American English? Will it affect my score? Not at all. The I in IELTS is international. We recognize that there are different types of English. However, we only recognize main areas. So the IELTS exam would recognize British spelling, American spelling. To some degree, Indian English is now getting its own. But Filipino English sometimes has a mixture of British and American. Some of it's got to be wrong. Either go with an American model or with a British model. And I appreciate that you're not sure which is which. So I'm going to do a webinar soon about those differences and maybe put some worksheets up on the Facebook page as well. How do you answer to what extent? Well, you say how much. I agree with this partially because, or I wholeheartedly agree with this because. The important bit is what comes after because, or I'm wholly against this view because. So to what extent is just how much. How much do you agree with it? How about if I completely agree with an idea? Do I have to put out an opposite idea? Well, it depends on the title of the essay. Sometimes that might be exactly what they're looking for. What is your opinion of? That's asking you to either completely agree or completely disagree. If it's an argumentative one, you'll have to show both sides, but you'll need to check the wording of the essay. Just to balance the essay, no, don't start writing an argumentative essay in response to an opinion essay, because they're two different questions. An opinion essay says, here's a topic, what's your viewpoint, tell me about it. It's not asking for both sides. So don't balance it, because you've then turned an opinion essay into a discursive essay, an argumentative essay. So be careful how you interpret the question. I interchanged the use of vertical and horizontal in my previous essay. Do you think it greatly affected my score? In task work, definitely. Yes, that would show not understanding what vertical or horizontal mean. If you're talking about the axes on the graph, definitely. Because if you said, if we look at the horizontal axis, we can see, then you describe what was on the vertical, it's wrong, way off topic. So yes, that greatly affected your score. If it's to what extent, do you agree? To what extent do you agree? It's the same. To what extent do you agree? So you say, I don't agree, I disagree. It's the same question. To what extent do you agree or disagree with the statement, the topic, the thesis? So same question. Okay, I'm conscious that we've overrun a little, but healthy amount of questions, thank you. So I'm going to, let's have, oh, there's more in the chat too. My question is, have I done any wrong, or is it the time is already done? My question is, have I done any wrong, or is it the time is already done? I don't understand that question. I have no idea what that means. Sorry. Jamie's asking, do you agree or disagree? We will just discuss one view that we chose. Choosed is irregular, doesn't have ed. We just discuss one view that we choose. Do you agree or disagree? Yes, you will decide whether you're in agreement or disagreement, and say why. Speaking, right? Speaking's not what we're doing today, so maybe that sort of thing could go up on the. Naomi's written that. Naomi, if you could write that question on the Facebook page, I'd be happy to answer it there. But I'm conscious that we've overrun a little on that. So if I haven't answered anybody's questions, if I've missed a question for some reason, by all means, put it on the Facebook page. If you're asking the question, it's likely someone else will want to know as well. So thank you very much for your time. Sorry to have kept you a little bit over the time we advertised, but good questions, thank you. And never be afraid of asking a question, because as I said, if you're thinking, what about this? I'm sure someone else will be too. So by putting it on Facebook, we can help more people. And I just have to write the answer once rather than emailing 10 people. Okay, so thank you very much once again, and come and have a look at another one in a couple of weeks. We'll announce the topic soon. So thank you very much, and see you all again soon. Thank you.